We welcome you from around the world. We know that we'll have a lot here tonight as well as watching afterwards. But we'd like to begin this. I introduce Jim and Ann Glenn, who's joining as co-hosts from San Antonio, Texas. We're glad they're with us. And we also have special guests again, Dr. Marty Morin, a research veterinarian, and Beth Wofford, who is a horse whisperer trainer extraordinaire. And we'll have her tell us a little more about that. But we've had them on before, and always focusing on redox signaling mechanisms that apply to all cells, including animals. And I'm sure we'll touch on that tonight. But we welcome you here. Let's kick this off tonight first with a disclaimer. We are all independent associates representing a company called ASEA Global, for those of you who have not heard of this before or who are just learning about it. We're independently associated. This is a health supplement, a cellular health supplement. And as such, we do not make any claims to diagnose, treat, or to cure any medical disease or disorder. And that's as it relates to humans. And so let's begin. We do have a unique animal focus tonight because of our animal whisperers. Again, I like that word. I'm not exactly sure what it means. I just know that you know the stuff, right? Let's start with Beth. You have the prettiest background there, in our view. You are in Kentucky. I was made sure that I knew that here, and I did. But tell us, what you've been with ASEA for a while. You've been around redox signaling, and obviously you've used this extensively, not just only personally, but with your animals. Maybe you could start by telling us your personal. Why did you first get attracted to what we're talking about tonight? Let's begin there, and then we'll go to Dr. Morin.
Sure. I was introduced to this. I had a wonderful friend of many, many years, decades, that was a holistic practitioner. He was a conventional medicine. He was a family practice physician, but he was kind of chafed under the yoke of conventional medicine, and he was always looking for holistic things. And we would trade holistic stories back, or we would trade, I just heard about colloidal silver. I just heard about blue-green algae. I just heard about this. We would go back and forth for years and years. We did that. And he called me one day and said, Beth, I have found the most profound product I have ever, or technology I've ever heard of in my life. I think it's going to change medical science as we know it. And I looked at, I was listening to him and I said, I've never heard you talk like this before. What is this stuff? I want it right now. I don't care what it is. I want it, but tell me how it works. Because he knows I love the science too. So he was explaining the science behind it, and it made such elegant, simple, common sense to me that I just said, this is awesome. My husband and I, we've been training horses for 60 years now, I guess. I shouldn't even say that, but since we were small children. Anyway, we want to continue to do so. We train racehorses, young racehorses on our farm here, and I wanted to stay busy. And every horseman you'll ever meet has aches and pains in their bodies, and we've just been incredibly we've been hurt a lot, but we've been incredibly fortunate that we've healed back very well. But we knew that the clock was ticking. So I loved this whole technology. I said, I want this. I bought as much as I could at the time. They had a package, everything changes. This was back 9 months before the official launch of the product. It was in February of 2010. So we got in very, very early, and none of us knew much about it except it couldn't hurt us. And it was just having these incredible effects on every living thing and every living cell. We immediately, go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Beth, what did he tell you in the beginning that it made so much sense?
That's a great question. He said, this is something that is native to our body. It's exactly what we have in our bodies anyway. And as we age, or as we get injured, or as we get an illness or something like that, our bodies don't work as well, which made perfect sense to me. He said, and those cells then get damaged. All disease come from damaged cells. Made sense to me. He said, and when you introduce these molecules, which are native to our bodies, they're made in every cell. And when the cell's damaged, you don't have as much of those molecules as you need to heal. So you just replenish these molecules and your body can heal itself. I said, perfect. That sounds
Okay.
absolutely perfect.
Did he tell you what it was made from? And did he tell you what it tasted like?
Yes, he started off by saying this stuff is made from salt and water. I said, Rob, are you kidding me? You gotta be kidding. I said, really? You seriously? You know, I said, come on. I thought he was pulling my leg. And then he could, obviously, we got into the whole breaking the sodium and the chloride apart, breaking the hydrogen and the oxygen apart. And I just ate it up. I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. So, I mean, I was immediately wanted us to be on it. And back then it was only 4 ounces a day. None of us knew that more was better. And so I brought enough home. I wanted to start, my husband and I both on it. I started on it, was so excited about it just because I thought we were going to stay younger longer. My husband had, at the time, had a head cold, and I brought it home and I said, and he's used to me doing this stuff, like, yeah, here, try this. This is something new. And he said, yeah, oh, he's like long suffering. I said, look, this will help you get over your cold, I think. So he started drinking it. And interestingly enough, to me, it tasted just like mineral water. When he took a sip of that, he said, oh my gosh, this is the worst. This stuff is so bad. This is so horrible. I said, you are such a baby. Will you suck it up? But since then, we have heard that the more you need the product, the more your cells are damaged or compromised, the stronger the taste. So I was reasonably healthy at the time. He was really sick at the time, so it tasted horrible to him. 3 days later, he was well. He said, I don't know why I made such a fuss about this stuff. It tastes fine. But since then, we found out that that's a pretty substantial difference. And it seems to be extremely important to medical people or to scientists. The fact that the taste changes depending on how badly your body needs it. So all of those things spoke volumes to me. It was just remarkable. And we continued to have some really phenomenal personal experiences. In the meantime, I said, every living thing, animals, and both Rob, and by this time I was talking to Gary Samuelson at the company, who said, yeah, sure, why don't you try it on animals? It'll work on everything. And so we started pouring it on everything that walked and breathed, and with phenomenal success.
Hey, Beth, do you remember the story? I remember Dr. Ward telling us that when he first was on it, it tasted like salt water. Then it got better. And then he had a patient come in that the patient was not well, and Dr. Rob got ill, and it went back to tasting like icky pool water. And that's what convinced him, right? Do you remember him telling that? Okay.
Absolutely.
And that's what convinced him that, okay, this is real.
And I didn't get it at the time, but he said, Beth, when I knew that the taste changed, it made the hair stand up on my arms. He said that was so profound that your body, depending on how compromised your body is, depending on what the taste and how the taste can change. And I didn't get it. I didn't really understand the how important that was and the impact that is. But there's a lot of scientific brains that say the same thing. They say it's very, very profound that this product, the taste changes depending on how compromised your system is. It was really remarkable. Yeah.
So Dr. Marty, go ahead, Lee.
Oh, I was just going to toss the ball to Dr. Marty. Okay. Let's hear your personal story. I've heard it once or twice. Tell everybody who's watching, listening, what it is that attracted your attention and brought you to the fold.
Well, we got a call from friends. They told us about this unique product. It was helping them to do better, and that was really about all they said. And so we thought we would try it. Our major concern was how safe was it? And of course, there's no toxicity to this technology at all. Folks, that's different. That's different. I can't name a veterinary drug or a human drug I would tell you is not toxic. This is not toxic. This is going to come in and help our cells do better. And I was one of those, like Beth's husband. This tasted horrible to me, when I first got it. I wanted to mix it in my orange juice. Of course, that would have fixed the orange juice, not Marty, right? So that would have been a big mistake. But no, I struggled through it, didn't care for it at all. But over time, the taste totally went away. I think of it like my body is, especially taste buds, my body is starting to get back into balance. And that's a big part of this technology, is that we have a chance, if you figure this out, we have a chance to stay in balance more frequently, stay in balance longer. And that's a big part of being well, is when your body is able to respond to the different kinds of challenges that hit us and stay well. So yeah, we just heard from friends they were doing better. Would we try it? Would we watch a video? And that was a Friday. On Monday we made a good size order, and we were off to the races.
The deal with the salt water, did that concern you with your background? I mean, what was your background, real quick, by the way?
Well, in the research laboratory, taking care of animals, and the fact that this works for animals who cannot have a placebo effect, right? I can't have a conversation with I don't know, dog, cat, whatever, and convince them that this is going to be good for them. That we're not going to have that conversation. But
Right.
Both Beth and I find that when animals are exposed to this, they realize it's good for them much more quickly than the human subjects we are involved with. I mean, I admire Dr. Osler for putting up with humans and taking care of their teeth. I say my patients bite, but they don't talk back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just chime in just with a point there, because this is one of to me, the dominant principles or characteristics that always comes out when we talk with both of you. Is this lack of placebo. The mind over body concept with humans is a powerful one. There's a lot of psychosocial and psychogenic issues related to how the human mind and the brain, can work and manipulate our health and perceptions and so forth. But with an animal, it's not there. So that's why, obviously, that's a good research model, because we're just trying to find out if actual biochemical, biophysical, electrostatic, electromagnetic properties that work in the physical world, if they apply to these cells that we're talking about. And indeed they do. And that's the principles upon which, this what we call cell signaling, this redox cell messenger signaling concept is how cells communicate or signal to each other, and which is the basis for how our body responds to the stressful environment that's around us, or the stressful environment within a cell is just a consequence of burning glucose to make energy, just our metabolic needs. And so I always find that interesting to hear you validate and verify that every time that, the experience in quote unquote, the test subject of an animal is so apparent. It's so readily observable. Whether or not the animal at first likes it or doesn't like it, or you have to trick it into, taking it at your gentle request or whatever, however you go about doing that with the animal. The bottom line is that when they get better, when their health improves, when their stamina increases, there's a stark and a straight, relationship with humans in that thing. So, Dr. Morin, could you comment maybe a little bit further on that, or why you believe that true?
Well, again, animals don't double think things, right? Too many times the human looks at it, hey, this is good, I love it, I'm really excited about it. Oh, there's a shiny object. And off they go, to something entirely different. And, then their health deteriorates because they had a chance for their health to be better, for their body to be in better balance, to get a chance to live younger, longer. We're really offering you that tonight. This technology helps us live younger. So back to our initial story, and don't let me forget your point, Lee. I'll come back to that. But when I got started on this technology, I was an old sick guy at 66 years old. 11 years down the road, I'm 77 now, and I'm sorry, folks, but I'm younger, right? I'm chronologically older, but my body is behaving younger. And I don't know if that's of any interest to you. I think it should be. But so we got a chance to do that. And what both Beth and I experience is that when we can train or give an animal enough exposures to these redox molecules, even if they shy away from it initially, once they figure this out, this is good, I want more. Then here's a bottle of liquid ASEA. Did that make a lot of noise? No. So let's just take a cat. You've got a cat. It may be an older, maybe a sick cat, and you've trained it to consume some of these redox molecules. You just get up in the morning, you walk to the kitchen or the bathroom, wherever you've got your bottle of ASEA, and you take the top off. You better be ready for the cat to be on the counter. The cat's going to be right beside you. Are we pouring? Are you going to pour some for me? And the dog you don't want the dog jumping on the counter, but it's rubbing up against your legs. Hey, is it time for that ASEA stuff? They don't know what it is. They just want you to pour some for them. And so there's your validation. I mean, the animals are figuring this out. I have just experienced it with grandkids. The grandkids figure this out. And they want more of it. They may not like the taste of it all that much, but I'll tell you what, when a mosquito finds them and they've got that swollen area that's very itchy, where's the tube? They just go find it. They don't ask permission. 5, 6 years old, they don't ask permission. They just go find the tube, shake it up, put it on. End of itchy. The kids are figuring this out. The animals are figuring this out. Spend some time with this. This is worth your time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just funny how you said that about the animal. We have a 100-pound, 13-year-old dog, and it was questionable his health after 2021, and he'd only used the Redox a little bit the year or so prior because he was, still doing great, and we just gave him it a little bit. So then 21, we upped it. I worked vigorously on his eyes with some gel. He started
Not in the eyes, but
no, on the lid where there's less hair. And I could tell a condition was improving. He started licking the gel right off my fingers. When he walks in, he already knows there's a routine. When I have the bottle with the little cups poured, he can lap them right out of our cups. I don't even use a regular. I mean, he knows what to do. He absolutely enjoys it. It's a ritual we do every single day. And I've definitely seen improvements. And I'm just amazed that he's still with us. And I couldn't stress it more. If you love animals, you need to be giving it to your animals, and it doesn't take much to get them trained. I mean, it's just
How old's the
spraying of
dog?
the eyes, spraying of the ears. He's at least 13 and a half.
we adopted him. We're not sure.
And a 100-pound dog
Yep,
that's
he's a big
13
dog.
years old
Yep.
is pushing it. But we hear this story all the time. Beth has a whole collection of these stories. She'll tell you how to find some of them. But we're pushing the envelope out for the animals, and humans are not going to live forever. Animals are not going to live forever. But one of the things that Beth and I have both observed is that at the end of life, these animals just pass very peacefully. I don't want to pass just yet, but I want to pass peacefully. I do.
Oh, for sure.
Beth, have you noticed the same thing with your big pets in the background? Have you noticed that they get acclimated, they get used to redox?
Wait, what I try to explain is that we teach equine preschool. So our horses are all just about, this guy behind me is about, maybe he's a 2-year-old. So he's just barely 2. The ones that this time of year that come to me are about 18 to 20 months old. So they really are very young, and they have a full complement of redox molecules still in their system. But I always lovingly refer to them as like 1,000-pound Labrador puppies, because they crash into each other and they thump around and they rear up and jump on each other, and they're always banging eyes or knocking into the fence, and they always have bumps and bruises and cuts and lacerations and all this stuff. And the very first thing we reach for is either the gel or the spray. I use the spray bottle a lot because oftentimes they're these are thoroughbred racehorses, and they're young, so they can be a little bit fractious. And yeah, thank you, Marty. Hold that up again, because that's Anne, thank you. That's good.
You never
And
not have it.
Yeah, those spray bottles are wonderful because sometimes they don't want you to touch their skin. They don't want you to put, have to rub the gel on. And I can get that spray bottle out. And, sometimes they're a little funny about the sound at first, but as soon as it touches whatever's hurting them, their eyes, their nose, if they cut themselves anywhere, you can spray that, and they kind of do this, and all of a sudden they go, oh, and you can see them relax, and they said, oh, that feels good. And that's really rare for a youngster. I mean, they don't ever do that. Especially if they're hurt, they get a little bit cranked up, and they love that stuff. They love it. So we use the spray bottle a lot. We do use the gel as well, but the spray bottle is my best friend.
Yeah.
So Marty, real quick, can you go ahead and explain, with a typical cat, typical dog, how do you get them used to drinking the molecules?
Well, let's just go to humans first. We want to take the product straight. So yes, it might taste a little funny to you at the beginning, but that's your body being out of balance more than there's no flavor to this. The flavor comes from the fact that we need to return to balance. We need to return ourselves to some comfort spot, the best word is balance. And then it won't taste funny. But with animals, they smell better than we do. And so they can actually detect the redox molecules in the product, and they've never smelled those before, so they're just backing up instinctively. So even though we want everybody to drink it straight, including our animal friends, we can start with a little bit of food. And so what I try to find is something that a dog or a cat will consume quickly, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. I just want it to be a small amount, and to create a game. So you put it down and it disappears. You put it down with a drop of ASEA on it, it's still disappearing. You put it down with 5 drops of ASEA on it, the game is on. It's still disappearing. And pretty soon you've got them diving through an ounce of liquid ASEA, drinking it all up to get to the game is on. And it won't take long before they'll just be there because you're drinking it, and they just want you to pour some. You won't need a treat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you doing that in one sitting? Are you doing that all at one time, or is this over a couple?
You can do it over a couple of days. Some animals take a little longer to train than others, but my daughter had a standard poodle, and I would pour for her, and she would drink it up. I would pour, she would drink it up. If I continued to pour, she would drink the whole bottle.
Yeah.
Not that she was so sick that she needed to drink a whole bottle, but she just knew this stuff is good. If he's going to keep pouring, I'm going to keep drinking.
Yep.
Now, do you typically pull their water source away and then do the ASEA somewhere else, or does that really matter?
I think it does. I think you put the food and water station somewhere. There's an ASEA station, probably pretty close to where you're consuming it yourself. And when they hang out there, they're actually asking you without knocking you down. They're asking you to pour. They go to the water dish, they're thirsty. But if they go to the ASEA bowl, then they're telling you, hey, what happened to you today? Aren't you going to pour?
Yeah. And no metal, correct? No metal bowls.
No metal.
No.
That dog did you refer, your daughter's dog, didn't he have a pretty bad incident one time?
Yeah, I ran into a very hard rock. Well, all rocks are hard, but at full speed,
Oh, big.
hit the rock and was down. And I'm flipping through my phone trying to find veterinarians that were still open and able to see the dog. Meanwhile, my wife Kathy was thinking clearer than I was, and she started shaking the bottle in front of my face. Why don't we try this? and so it didn't take long. The dog drank ASEA every day anyway, and so she just started to take it, even though down on the floor, shocky, very shocky. Started taking the ASEA, and after I have no idea because I was just pouring it into my cupped hand, so she was taking it right out of my hand. I have no idea how much, but eventually she just stood up. She continued to drink from my hand, and then she walked away. And so I thought, that's interesting, right? I had this shocky down on the floor dog a few minutes ago, and now I've got a dog that's looking pretty normal. So I took her outside, walked her around. She was moving well. Property where we were is very hilly. I took her down a steep driveway, brought her back up a staircase. None of her feet, poodles kind of prance. So she was just doing that prance, didn't miss a step, no stumbling, knuckling over, nothing. She was just back within about an hour.
Lee, as a researcher, real quick, I can tell you want to ask something too, but I want to ask you as a researcher on the traditional medicine side, you hear these stories. Does that give you, I'm not sure what the word is, but as a researcher with humans and you hear these animal stories, what does that do to you with this technology? Does it help validate it that much more?
Well, it does. I go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago. If this is going to help an organism that doesn't think its way through its own well-being, then what does that say about those of us who probably shouldn't be thinking too hard about our well-being, at least in this regard, and getting into the science? I mean, to me, it triggers questions. If you want, there's the idea that if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions. Well, in this case, we know the answer already. You can observe the answer. If you know the science, you know what the outcome, the result, the answer is. And the answers are predicate upon laws and rules that govern cellular function. And so if we don't understand why we're getting the answer or the outcome or the result that we've been talking about, then it behooves us to say, well, there's got to be a question out there that we could ask that will lead us to that answer, because we already know the answer. When you know cell biology, you know the outcome. The outcome is better glutathione creation. It's better autophagy or cell cleanup, cell renewal. It's better mitochondrial energy production. It's better cell repair. It's better DNA repair. It's protection of telomeres. It's all of those things are the outcome. And what we call those today is anti-aging and wellness. And so if we know the outcome and the answers, and we know how to formulate better questions, we can then work upstream and say, well, what is it that's going on here that produces these outcomes? And all of that's consistent with the science, because you don't get those outcomes unless cells function better. And so you can empirically kind of create this story in your own mind, and it's definitely in thousands and thousands of research articles. You don't get those outcomes unless cells signal better, unless electrons move more easily from one molecule to the next, unless we understand and are manipulating. I don't want to get too sciencey here, but we understand the rules of what we call hormesis, which is really what this whole technology in the cell does or drives, is that it's is hacking. We're manipulating on purpose a set of things that happen to produce these outcomes. And so that's where my mind goes, and if it can happen, it's like, it's why we do research on worms and cells. If it works there, they don't think either. A worm doesn't think, it just does. It responds to oxidation, it responds to pH, it responds to temperature, all the variables that we can throw at it. And when we isolate the variables out and we can test them one at a time and then put them all together, then we begin to understand how cells actually work. And of course, we're made up of a few trillion cells, right? And so when they all work and communicate together better, then we are better. And that's where my mind goes.
Well,
Marty, what about you?
Coming back to the human again, humans don't want to be tricked. They don't want to be made a fool. And so you've done this many times on this call, Jim. I'll do it for you today. Saltwater product from Salt Lake City. How stupid could you be? And they're gone. They're just gone. They won't even come back to learn about what in Dr. Osler's books or in some of the studies. So this fear factor in humans, that they might be deceived, they might look silly, drives a lot of people to back away. And, they'll just have to wait a while. Will it be a year? Will it be 3 years, 5 years before they have the courage to come back and try this product? I hope not. Because I'll tell you, I've started a lot of people on this product, and some of them go away. And I've had them come back 5 years later. Marty, are you still doing that stuff, that saltwater stuff? Are you still doing that? I have this terrible diagnosis.
Mhm.
Well, we're not here to help you with a diagnosis. We're here to help your cells, right?
Right.
This technology can help your cells. If you need better liver function, maybe it would be good if your liver cells work better. Let's just start right there. We have to have better functioning cells. Marty has been on this product for 11 years. My cells work better. Any interest out there?
That's
As
simple.
They're listening, because what you just said is really the profound grounding
Exactly.
of everything about this.
It's that simple. But we complicate it. It just seems amazing, Marty and Beth, that when you see an animal respond like that to me is just amazing validation. And it really just kind of hit me that, but as a research veterinarian, Marty, you didn't go and research medicine for an animal and then cross over to humans, right? And why is that with this is classified for human consumption only? How do you deal with that as well, by the way?
Actually, the animal side of the FDA is harder than the human side.
Really?
Go figure. And now that the medical world knows this works, and they do, the medicine world that I was trained in, I'm not going to speak for Lee or Dr. Hayes. I was trained in a world that wants drugs out there, wants shots out there, wants dewormers out there, wants. Why? Dollar signs. And so this is a wellness technology. Some of the dogs aren't going to come to the clinic quite as frequently, but I'll tell you what, if you do have the courage to learn about this and share it with some of your owners, it's going to be their decision to share it with their own animals. But I'll tell you what, those owners are going to talk about your clinic or your medical practice or your dental practice all the more because they don't have to go as frequently. And so what you lost in that patient will be made up many times, in my mind, will be made up many times over, and all the new customers are going to come to you to see the dentist or the doctor or the veterinarian less frequently. That's a good thing. that the animals don't have a need to be in the door or the dental chair or the doctor's office. That's a good thing.
Oh, I definitely agree. I was going to add about our dog, just in case somebody's new and they're just thinking of trying it. Beth, you mentioned the spray bottle. I spray every day, not only in his eyes, but in his ears. And I use a Q-tip to get the gel in the ear, not way deep, just in the ear where the bones are, right when you enter. And he loves it. He absolutely loves it. He does not at all cringe to have any part of Redox. I also put it on the paws where the just skin is. He loves that. I saw he had a hind that was cut, and I'm not sure how, some way in the yard. And I just every single day just kept applying it to that hind where there's a little bit less hair, and I saw it improve. I think the greatest story I ever had with him was about 3 months or so ago. It was a rainy morning. He was out for his normal, going to the restroom, and he couldn't get up off the step to come in from the rain. So, I couldn't lift him by myself. I had Jim help me get him in. He's laid again, plopped on the floor. I was concerned about him. Got him down half a bottle of just Redox over and over and over, half a bottle. Within 30 minutes, he's following me to our side door and totally caught me off guard. It was just a total miracle. And though we're not making claims to cure, diagnose, or treat, I mean, you're the pet owner and you love it. You might as well be giving it to your animal. Definitely we don't have any vet bills because of the time we have spent on taking care of him. And obviously we eventually will, but because he's been on Redox, we've just been able to go the most holistic route. And I live holistically, so why wouldn't I want that for my dog?
So leading into that, Beth, you've got a couple of new stories.
Oh, yay.
I do indeed. I'd like to add a couple things. Cats are notorious for not doing what you will expect them to or that you want them to. So there are some cats, as a matter of fact, quite a few cats that don't come up and drink out of the. Now that always shocks me when I hear about cats that'll come and drink when you pour it. My cat, I put him on the counter. I tuck him under my arm. I support his chin, and I take a little 10 cc plastic syringe. And I squirt ASEA in the side of his mouth, and he just goes, and he'll drink it up and swallow it. And that's what I do. He would not drink it out of a bowl without trying. So, I mean, without prompting. So yeah. I do that. And our dog he's 15 years old. He's a medium-sized dog. He's about 25 pounds, 30 pounds. And he runs all over the farm. He's 15 years old. He's had ASEA every single day of his life since he was about 7. And he is really, really fussy. He's also a rescue. He's really weird about his food and strange things. So we still continue to put a tiny, again, Marty talking about a tiny little bit of food. Usually it's something like stinky cheese, like maybe a little Parmesan or if I have a little chicken, I'll put a little tiny bit of chicken, and he drinks it right up immediately. The trick with that is whenever you do that, if they drink it very quickly, yeah, you might lose 1 or 2% of the molecules, but I'm telling you, it works. So if that's the only way you can get your animal to take it, then definitely, I mean, at least he's getting molecules in it. Your point too, for sure. And that's what's really important, because we get so many questions. I do a lot of 3-way. We get so many questions of how much do I give and how do I give it? How do I get my dog to, or, my cat's real fussy or whatever. But Anne, your point is very good. Wherever you can get through the hair into the skin, usually with dogs with flop over ears, you can rub the inside of the ears with Renew. You can rub their gums with Renew. You can put the pads of their feet. A lot of times their bellies have kind of less hair on their bellies, and you can rub it on their bellies. Anywhere you can get through the hair and into the skin, you're going to get those molecules directly into the body, and they don't have to be metabolized. They'll go directly through the skin. They'll go directly where they're needed. So the gel or the spray or the liquid, any way you can get those molecules in is the great way to do it.
Yeah.
So that was just a little
Great. That's
aside.
great.
And just
And
as
far
a side note, that applies to humans as well.
yeah, there you go. Perfect. Exactly. Thank you.
So Beth,
As far as, yeah, go ahead.
no, I don't want to interrupt you, but what I want to have you weave into some of your answers here is one of the first things that I came across when I started looking at this research was David Neiman's experience with energy in humans, performance, athletes, and so forth. And so you mentioned that you train thoroughbred horses. I'm assuming that means racing horses, performance horses in that regard. Have you seen any outcome or results in their ability to run or to pace themselves or to have energy like David Neiman's research showed on cyclists? Can you translate that into your world?
Mhm.
Great question. The biggest problem with thoroughbred racing is the thoroughbred races are, even the longer classic races are about a mile or to a mile and a quarter. I know the Derby's a mile and a quarter. That takes a minute, 36 seconds to run. So it's such a brief period of time and it's such an explosive, immediate impact. I believe, of course, that the Redox would help horses, but there is a very, very hard obstacle we have to overcome with people overthinking it because, well, the track was more firm today. He liked it. Well, it was warmer or it was cooler today, so he ran faster. There's all these different things. So what Dr. Neiman's, what his tests were over a period of time. He tested the VO2 max, which is like how long it takes an athlete to get to their maximum where they're just tapped out. And anytime you get any kind of endurance athlete or endurance competition, you're going to get a much better read on what this does with an athletic body. For instance, endurance horses. We've had incredible stories about endurance horses, and that's really neat because when you have an endurance race with horses, they have to have vet checks like periodically, and I don't know the rules specifically, but I know they have to, like they go a certain miles, 20 miles or something, and then they have to stop at a vet check. The vet has to check their respiration and their everything to make sure, and how quickly the respiration and their heart rate comes down before they can go out on the next leg. It's a little like the Iditarod, if anybody knows about the Iditarod dog races in Alaska. So that's a very specific reading. And when you see my horse it's taken him, 15 minutes to get back into comfortably in the past. And now it takes 10 minutes and his recovery is incredible and it's so much better. Those are very specific things that you can pinpoint. And that's why the longer the race or the longer the competition, and you'll hear Sean Burke, who is an Ironman triathlete, and he notices it beautifully. And I mean, he has a wonderful, if you've seen that he had a great visual where he said he was holding up like four medals, and he said this was before Redox 15 years ago, and he has both of his arms out draped in medals since Redox, and he's gotten older during the course of that time. So because he's an endurance athlete, he can see the difference so much clearer. Does it help horses that are doing short races? Of course it does, but the people involved with their care are not going to buy that. So thoroughbred racing is a little different than anything else. Just keep in mind that anything that takes more time, any kind of competition that takes more endurance, it's easier to see the difference and how much it helps.
Well,
That's
isn't
a
the
good
key also
validation.
doing the recovery? I'm sorry. Go ahead,
That's a
Lee.
good
The
validation
recovery.
on the human side.
Yeah. The recoveries are remarkable. That's actually probably what they see more than anything is, horses that are bucking and kicking and playing in the field, the next day because they feel great and they're not all stove up. I've heard Rob Ward, again, my friend that introduced me to this. He ran a marathon. He hadn't been able to run in something like 5 years before because he had a foot problem. Well, the foot problem cleared up as soon as he started taking Redox. He started thinking, well, maybe I can run again. He started running. He pushed himself and did a marathon. And he said, he's done that. He had 2 marathons earlier in his life, like 10 years earlier, significantly earlier. And he finally got himself up to run this marathon. I was there and I watched him run. And he carried 2 pouches of Redox in his hands while he was running, and he was drinking them the whole time. And he said he got up the next morning and he said, I came into the kitchen and I started dancing. He said, this never happens. Usually I literally cannot get out of bed the next morning. And he's 10 years older than he was when he last ran his marathon. So it is amazing to see the recovery. And it's really neat to see with the horses because they play and jump around and they're not walking with their heads down and saying, I'm exhausted. So that's really fun.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I know you need to get into those 2 testimonials.
Oh, okay. I mean, if they don't, what we're talking about now, I think is really helpful for everybody because I think it's important for them and their own animals. But we had a wonderful conference in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago, and I love the fact that people call me the Redox animal person because I was the original kind of professional animal person that signed up in ASEA many, many, many years ago. I've kind of been earmarked as that, which I think is wonderful. So I get people coming to me with, oh my gosh, have to hear about my dog. And this was one of them. And actually it's two animals. So let me share my screen real quick. I just stuck this on a PowerPoint so I could show you the pictures. This is Redford.
Oh,
Redford is a 17-year-old dachshund. He evidently, I have the notes here from his owner. They said, from what I can tell, an average age for a lifespan for a mini dachshund, which is what Redford is 14 years. He's already 17 plus, and he's doing great. And he's drinking his Redox and he's doing fine. He had a significant problem. He had a growth in his ear that he scratched and it was bleeding and they were very concerned about it. They could not stop the bleeding no matter what they did. And this lady, she said it took me a little while because I was really new to ASEA and I didn't know what was going on. So they couldn't control the bleeding. I'm reading real quickly her own words. A little Renew 28 on a swab, one application. She took a little swab, a cotton swab, and she put it on. She did one application, and it stopped bleeding just like that. And she said, I was really skeptical that it would work at all. In fact, I was pretty sure it would make things worse. Silly me! It worked like a charm. Yay, Redox! But he also, this same guy, had some cysts. This is under kind of right behind his left arm, kind of in his armpit sort of area.
wow.
And they had some cysts that came up, which is pretty common with old dogs. I think Marty could speak to that better than I can, but it's pretty common with old dogs. And they couldn't figure out what to do about it. And 3 days afterwards, the cysts were significantly less. And then they finally, they went completely flat. And I wish he did not give me a time frame on how they went, but they're gone. And that doesn't happen with old dogs. Usually you just kind of.
Is this topical or liquid?
This was the topical. This was only Redox. Yeah.
Okay.
This was only Redox. I mean, only Renew. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I mean. So that was really, really cool. And they are so excited now. They think because now they know that of course, and Marty and I've spoken to this before, which I think is really important. This product is not going to make your animal live forever. It's not a panacea, but it's going to give him a quality of life that is really, really specific. So it makes a huge difference. They're saying Redford is so much more comfortable and happier than he was before, because he gets daily Redox. So that's what the beautiful thing is. If we can give our animals the quality of life until they pass peacefully, I mean, what better gift can we give them? This is a chicken.
Oh, look at
Chickens
that. That's fun.
I have wonderful friends with chickens and they love their chickens, and chickens are notoriously hard to heal. If something goes wrong, that's really hard for them to heal. Well, this chicken got in a fight. They were fighting over some organic cornflakes, she said.
Oh no.
And one guy went over or this one chicken went over and pecked this poor chicken, Nani. And she took him in, she took her inside and she set up what she calls a chicken hospital, she said. It's actually really cute the way she describes it. But she sprayed. Now she used the spray bottle that we've been talking about all along. She didn't want to put her fingers or put the gel in his eye, in her eye. Obviously it's a her. So, but she sprayed it, and she said she sprayed it for 2.5 days, throughout the day, each day, and is now back with her flock, and she's perfectly 100%. So she was very, very excited about that, because chickens, this can be a real serious thing with chickens. So that's just my little story, my newest animal story, which is kind of cool.
That's cute. That's great. Appreciate that.
But
I was gonna-
I would kind
oh,
of
go
like
ahead, Mark.
those are great, Beth. I'd kind of like to go back to the Dr. Neiman comment that Dr. Osler mentioned. Can we do that real quick?
Yeah.
Got about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know. So let me see if I can share a screen. I would encourage you to go look for Dr. David Neiman, Nieman. And if you search, just a regular search on your computer, David Neiman and ASEA Convention 2012, you'll see guy with a tie, short sleeve shirt on a stage. And he's going to go ahead and talk about that athlete study that Dr. Osler mentioned earlier. And if you watch that, I think it's about a 13-minute video, he will show you data points like this. Now, this isn't to try to make you all into scientists. Nobody wants a deep science dive tonight. But I want you to note that the red dots are also the blue dots, same people, right? On the ASEA, not on the ASEA, right? So drinking some placebo and then having access to the ASEA. These were trained cyclists, and their body made a big jump. I've been involved in a lot of science projects, and you can show that the science was real with a small move if you have enough subjects. If you have a great big group of subjects, you can find a 2-3% benefit, and that can make some company a lot of money, some athletic company a lot of money. It doesn't have to be giant. But what Dr. Neiman saw with these very well fit athletes, trained cyclists, they had this huge jump in what their bodies could do at a cellular level. Now, hey, we're not all cyclists, and quite frankly, we don't need to care about the cyclist making a big jump. But I predict for you that inside your body, if you use this, if you learn about this technology and decide to give it a try, your body will be making these big jumps. I'm not telling you you're going to feel it every time it does, but your body is moving toward wellness. Your body is moving toward balance. It's moving toward longevity. We get the chance, if you figure it out, we get the chance to live younger, longer. That's what my wife, Kathy, and I have figured out. We're not going to stop.
That's right.
Lee, real quick, can you maybe briefly talk about some of the new technologies that are coming since you're on the medical professional board, or can you really say too much? I mean, you're kind of excited about what's coming, if I may say.
Yeah, you're right. I can't say a whole lot, but within 2 or 3 months, we're going to be hearing much more come out. But the general idea with redox signaling, as we know it to date with the ASEA products, is that we're playing a piano rather than one note on the piano. This is a concept of ground foundation is one way of looking at it. The other is we're getting more upstream And the more upstream we can go, I mean, redox signaling molecules are the deepest cell signaling molecules ever discovered. And that's the level that we're playing at with this, because these are cell signaling molecules, which means they affect, again, I don't want to get real deep, but they affect every redox or oxidation sensitive transcription factor, or you can just think of those as a cellular switch. Every transcription factor that's redox sensitive in the body is influenced by these. And because of that, we can play the entire keyboard. Every cell, every transcription factor, every redox switch, every pathway gene that is affected or influenced or managed by this type of natural, very native in our body concept is affected by this technology. Well, we've also now discovered ways where we can just narrow in on middle C, on the piano. We can play 2 or 3 notes very well, very extreme. So we can now have targeted applications for redox signaling. And it's a pattern we're going to see happen in big pharma research as well. They're looking of how they can go with some specificity into these switches to turn genes on and turn them off with prescription specificity. It'll make them billions of dollars. And so there's some correlation here with this idea that we can use combinations of science applications and technology that will allow us to specifically influence various pathway genes related to inflammation, related to antioxidant protection, and a myriad of other things. And so this is opening up a brand new field or opportunity for us to own the redox marketplace. And I say that, I guess that's a commercial statement, but the science-scape, the landscape, we're all playing in this redox sandbox, right? And there's a lot of sand, there's a lot of stuff going on because it's a landscape. In science terms, we call it the redoxome, just like you think of the genome or the proteome. This is the redoxome, and it's the influence or the overlay or the epigenetics of how we control genetics. And this is really exciting to me.
I wish we could go on. Guys, thank you. Marty, Beth, as always, fan favorites.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, go ahead. Real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know it has to be very, very quick. If anybody's looking for more animal stories, I have a Facebook page that is Healthy Redox Pets. It is, you have to ask to join, but I approve everybody, so everybody's welcome to join. Hundreds and hundreds of stories there. We have videos of people telling their animal stories at animalwebinar.com. And the password is associate with a capital A, so that you can go in there and look for more stories.
Yes.
Thank you.
Super.
Thank you. So right now, starting now, is Dan Doyle. If you want to hear one of the most amazing human stories, go listen to Dan Doyle. The Zoom ID is 850-850-8888. 850-850-8888. Go listen to one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met, with his compassion and love for humanity because of what this technology did in his life. Next week, we will be back. We've got Dr. Ed De Los Reyes. If you want to hear another amazing story about an MD, a pain doctor, you need to come back and hear this doctor's story. It is absolutely amazing. We love Dr. Ed as much as we love Dr. Marty and Dr. Beth, as I'll call her, the animal doctor. So with that, guys, thank you. This recording will be up at Redox Matters within about an hour. And so we really appreciate your time. Bring people back to watch us next week. And do not go to Amazon. Get back to the one that brought you on, that introduced you. Say thank you. If you weren't here, I don't know where I would be right now if I wasn't. Every one of us was introduced to us by a friend. Isn't that amazing? If you care, you invite. You want to share something that is just amazing. So with that, thank y'all. God bless. Get back to one that got you on the call, and we'll see you back next week. Thank
you,
y'all.
buddy.
God bless.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Lee.
Bye.
Thanks, Beth. Thank Marty. Bye-bye.